It is Christmas Eve, but it is not a silent night. All is not calm. For too many, nothing is bright. And for too many, they are not sleeping peacefully. I did a town hall last night that had people crying, people terrified of what is going to happen. I have for months been talking to 10 restaurant owners a day who are desperately trying to survive. I've been talking to people who were scared they were going to be kicked out from their homes during the Christmas holidays. And still might be if we don't sign this bill. A father who called me 2 weeks ago and who said to me he had told his child that Santa Claus couldn't come this year, but he wanted to be able to feed her for Christmas. People don't know what the hurt is like there. Was this bill perfect? No. But it was a down payment on getting COVID relief to the people of this country. And then the president, when we finally thought that we'd be able to give people hope, that's what people need, hope, and be able to begin to continue to work on this in January, doesn't give a damn about people. He threw more fear. He threw kerosene on a Terrifier and is now threatening to veto this bill. Today, Mr. Hoyer, on behalf of he and the Speaker, brought a resolution that would have immediately given that $2,000 payment that the President said he wanted. And Republicans blocked it, not Democrats. I'm merely here to say on Christmas Eve, we will come back in on Monday. I beg the President to know how many people in this country are scared, fearful, terror, hungry, and that we must get a bill done so that we are helping Americans. Compassion, empathy, those kindness are the words we should remember this holiday season. Thank you.
There is only one party looking to help the American people. I don't like to use sweeping generalizations, and I certainly don't think Democrats are perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but throughout this entire nightmarish pandemic, from the very first days of the virus to now, 10 months later, we have seen nothing but carelessness and mismanagement on the right, to the point where now, after all Republicans would deign to give Americans that are in desperate need of relief was a measly $600, even that was put in jeopardy by a party that's only interested in political posturing and not actually helping anyone survive. And it's about time it was called out for exactly what it is. The latest relief bill with $600 direct payments came after months of negotiating with Republicans who'd been refusing to offer any relief at all. Zero. And that's knowing that just about every other industrialized nation in the world was subsidizing its citizens. And yet here, in the richest, most prosperous country in the world, what did the Republican Party that was in control of the Senate fight for? A liability shield, so that businesses are protected from lawsuits if their employees are subjected to unsafe conditions in the middle of a pandemic. That's where the GOP's priorities are right now, protecting reckless corporations, because of course. And yet on top of that, even after they finally agreed to $600 checks, which frankly fall woefully short but still offer something, Trump plays politics and threatens to veto it, all because he decides that he now supports $2,000 direct payments, despite the fact that for months the White House negotiated a deal that came nowhere close to that. And look, if $2,000 a person was a reality, then that would be amazing. But we all know that Senate Republicans wouldn't pass it, and so all Trump's 11th hour theatrics do is delay the passage of a bill that would have at least given something to people. So now people are going to still get the original amount, only they'll have to wait longer to jump through Trump's added hoops, because it's always about the show for him. Honestly, if the guy actually cared about $2,000 payments, why wait until right now? Why not have said that for the last several months? The last stimulus check was in March, 10 months ago. Why wait until moments before this bill was about to be passed? It's because A, he was so checked out of the process because he doesn't care, and so he probably had no clue what was in the bill until this week. And B, he thinks it's going to help him curry favor so he can win an election that's already over. That's it. It's to help himself. He'd rather blow up the last chance of what little money we can get to the American people, all because he decided that he'd try to raise his own stock. All the while, guess where Donald Trump is right now? You guessed it, on the golf course. What Republicans don't seem to grasp is that not giving money to actual people is a catastrophic failure. People need to eat. They need to pay their rent. They need to keep the heat on. They need to not get thrown out onto the streets. Is a liability shield going to help them? Of course not. But Republicans think that by helping businesses and CEOs, everything will be fine. Because it's always about pretending that by helping the rich people, relief will miraculously trickle down to everyone else, which couldn't possibly be more utterly absurd. So two things need to happen at once, neither of which Republicans are willing to acknowledge. First is that people need direct relief so they can afford to survive. Every other country offers this because they know that unless people are given money and the autonomy to determine how it's best spent for them in their situation, then it won't be nearly as effective. And two, we need to take serious universal steps to contain the spread of the virus. Not blindly reopening, not demanding kids go back to school, not packing football stadiums and campaign rallies. We need a national, concerted effort where we actually slow and stop the spread. Because after 10 months of half-assed efforts where half of the country is walking around with no masks because freedom and liberty, all that's done is prolong the very crisis we're mired in right now. If everyone spent a few weeks to do what should have been done in the beginning, we could finally be done with this. We wouldn't need to spend the next 10 months watching cases continue to skyrocket. And most importantly, we wouldn't be sitting idly by while hospitals reach capacity and thousands of Americans die every day. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to prevent. It's gonna be hard either way, but businesses will reopen and kids will eventually go back to school, and yes, our sports teams will be back next season. But you can't bring back the 325,000 people we've lost. And we should be making every single effort humanly possible to ensure that no more Americans needlessly die. It shouldn't take Democrats begging the so-called pro-life party to acknowledge that. But the simple fact is that Republicans won't acknowledge it. And so the only way to get adequate relief to the American people is to flip the Senate. If Democrats are able to win both seats in the upcoming Georgia Senate runoff, then they'll control the chamber and can finally deliver the relief that everyone so desperately needs. That will not happen so long as Mitch McConnell's in charge. He has shown us, proven to us, that he won't allow it to happen. He's had nearly a year to get relief, and yet the only check anyone's gotten was $1,200 in March. 10 months ago. So Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue will make their promises on the campaign trail and manipulate their supporters into thinking that they'll help them, but they've had plenty of time to prove it. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. And thus far, they've done nothing. So if you think that Americans deserve relief to compensate for the fact that we've dealt with a government that's only exacerbated this crisis, then let your friends and family and coworkers in Georgia know what's at stake in this election. Because the time for trying to appeal to a Republican Party disinterested in helping us is over. We need to elect people who care about our health and safety, and we have the chance to do exactly that only a few days from now. So for the sake of your fellow Americans and in the spirit of helping those around you, please make sure you vote. If you like this video, please check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I take a deep dive into the week's most important stories and interview major players in politics, including Kamala Harris, Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Eric Swalwell, Mary Trump, Al Franken, Cory Booker, and many, many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.